Recently, Sigma sent me a new lens to have a play with, and it's this, the Sigma 85mm f1.4 DG DN Art lens. As you'd expect from an art series lens, this is built to have incredible optical quality as well as a hardy build quality so that you know it can withstand proper professional use. This lens is built to come in L mount and E mount, so I decided to take it out with my Sony a7 III. Now the great thing about the optics in an art lens are they're going to do amazing things with something like an a7 III, but also they have the resolving power so that if you've got a higher megapixel camera, say an a7R4, where you see things like 61 megapixels, or maybe you've got an S1R from Panasonic, this type of lens, the optics inside this 85mm are going to do fantastic things and have the resolving power necessary to make the most of those sensors. Inside of this 85mm, we've got 5 SLD or special low dispersion elements, as well as an aspherical element. And all of those help to reduce aberrations that the cameras are finding it very hard to control, particularly axial chromatic aberration. Now, this will help reduce any colour bleeding that you see. There's also coatings in there for ghosting and flaring. So all in all, you get the best possible optical quality at the back of this lens, and then your camera can make the most of that. It was a dark and dingy day when I went out testing the 85mm, but the great thing about having an f1.4 lens is you can make the most of that really wide open aperture, get lots of light in, you can up your shutter speed a little bit and not have to use high ISOs even on miserable days. What I would like to say is this lens was definitely usable down at f1.4. There was no problem at all with losing any quality when you got to those really wide open apertures, and actually it was sharp edge to edge. I'm a big fan of using big wide open apertures to isolate subjects, particularly when you're shooting in portrait, as I think a lot of people are. And that's great, but sometimes, depending on the lens you're using, those out of focus areas can look not very smooth, they can be a bit troublesome and they can be detracting to the eye. Now with this 85mm, inside we've got an 11 blade rounded diaphragm, and that helps to create really smooth out of focus areas, and if you actually have any sunlight, then it would create a really creamy, lovely bokeh. The lens itself weighs just 630 grams, and actually it's very balanced on the front of the camera. This has been designed for full frame mirrorless cameras, so it's not overly big. It's got a nice weight to it, but it feels balanced when you've got it on the front of something like an a7 III. The length of the lens is just 9.4 centimeters, so not very long, but it does come with this big locking lens hood, which creates a lot of buffer between that front element and the outside world. So if I've got a wedding and you're using two bodies and this is hanging to your side, I wouldn't be worried because nothing is going to touch that front element. It also helps when it's drizzling and rainy like it was when I was shooting, to protect that front element from any raindrops. And the lens itself is weather sealed, so it can be resistant to dust and moisture. So even if the shooting conditions are a bit rubbish, this 85mm can keep up with what you want to be shooting. Cameras now have incredible autofocus capabilities, and you need lenses that can keep up with what they can do to make the most out of them. Now this 85mm has a stepping motor autofocus system, and that's been optimized for both contrast detect and phase detection AF. And as this comes in L mount and E mount, I'll let you guess why it's been optimized to those two different types of autofocus. On the day, I was using IAF a lot, and it was incredibly quick. It worked really well. Even when the subject was quite far away from me, it would go eye detect, then it would go face detect, and if they were really far away, it would pick up the body. But it was great at tracking, and it kept going across the whole descent. Now, obviously that depends on the camera that you've got and where your points are and how good it is at tracking. But what I would say is this lens definitely kept up with how good my camera was at autofocus, and that's what you want to see from a lens like this. You don't want to feel like the camera's having to lag because of what the lens is doing, and I had no problems at all. This lens feels well built, and we've actually got a lot of functionality on the body itself. So we do have an aperture ring here. You can hear the click. I love an aperture ring, really nice to use. But if you want to turn that click off, you can. It's simply a little switch down here. We also have an AF to MF switch. big fan of that. I know you can do it on bodies, pretty much all of them now, but I quite like it on the lens. I find it's easier to work with, quicker to work with. And we've also got an AFL button, which can be customized with a bunch of different things depending on how you want to use it. We've also got an iris ring lock switch over here too, and the manual focus ring on this is very, very smooth. It's really smooth. I found it incredibly easy to manual focus with this. There's no dead stop to it when you stop moving it. It's very nice, and I think if you were using this for video, you'd be able to get some really smooth pushing and pulling of focus with this. If you want to find out more about this awesome 85mm, then you can of course visit our store page. Just click up there, it'll take you straight to it, or we'll put a link in the description as well. You can find out loads of info, or you can also put an order in there. If you still want to ask some questions, of course you can give us a call, send us an email, pop a comment here, and we'll try our best to get back to you with all the information that you could need. We have loads of this type of video coming up. We review lots of different tech from loads of different companies, and we also do a lot of technique stuff as well. So if you want to keep watching us and find out all of the type of content that we put out for you guys, make sure to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you don't miss anything. But for now, a big thanks for watching.